10th of April. These are matters that involves the Attorney General. And so any case that for some reason there has to be representation from the Office of the Attorney General, the Chief Justice was written to asking her to adjourn all of such proceedings. And the Chief Justice, we understand, acceded to that particular request. And so there were a number of cases that the court dealt with, even before it dealt with this particular case of interest. And the court adjourned all those matters as well. And so once this particular case was called, a representative from the Attorney General's office, a state attorney who was accompanied by a senior state attorney, actually informed the court that the Attorney General asked that they come and inform the court, because they respect the court, that even though the Chief Justice has granted the request, they nonetheless want to show up and inform the court of the fact that they want the matter to be adjourned because of the symposium that is taking place for all state attorneys.
We understand for the lawyers of the MP led by the former Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame, they have some reservations regarding the conduct of the Office of the Attorney General. Talk to us about these reservations.
I mean, two main issues. The first is he makes the point that this is a symposium that is being organized for state attorneys. And the question he asks is that the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, are not state attorneys, and so why can they not be present here in court? Then he also says that even before, because they can't even show up, they've also sent 2 state attorneys. And so he says that if you can't come, you can send someone to come and represent you in court, why can't the person also be asked to handle this particular matter? And so those are concerns that he raised. I caught up with Godfred Yeboah-Dame after proceedings, and he spoke to us about these matters and other matters that have come up in relation to this particular case.
I mean, that was quite odd for him to say that citizens all the cases that come to that. He is not a citizen, he cannot come to court. The matter is important that the removal of the Chief Justice, the clinical, or send the case to court and attend. The Deputy Attorney also not still attending the clinical. What makes it more odd is the fact that they send state attorneys, not even 1 but 2 senior state attorneys, to come and inform the court that they are the conference, and so the matter should be done. That is all. Or there's an application for example to injunction pending. So why would anybody proceed? How find a quite interest and quite odd. It would be the height of a discarded rule of law if they proceed in that manner.
So as far as you are concerned, you expect the President to halt the constitution of the Council if all this is pending?
It's not my expectation. It's the expectation of the law. The law expects that such regard for due process be observed. And so it will be actually a confirmation of the disregard for the rule of law. And I think that you should see that belief filed by the Attorney General. I would say that the Lord has a fine way of exposing the hearts and desires of men. The Lord has an interesting way of exposing the hearts and true desires of men. And indeed, it's been evidence in the affidavit filed by the Attorney General. They did not intend to accord any right of hearing to the Chief Justice until the matter was filed. And they indicated it in the affidavit. So it's quite clear. But I'll leave it at that. The merits determined by the court will argue in court.
Joseph, that's the former Attorney General, but he makes reference to documents filed by the Office of the Attorney General with respect to the affidavit in response to the injunction application. What other details are contained in that before we try and run viewers through that as well?
In fact, the point that is raised in that affidavit is the fact that the Office of the Attorney General takes the view that there is no law or any decided case that compels the President to give a hearing to the Chief Justice in considering a petition seeking a removal. You recall that when the 10-day window was given to the Chief Justice to send their response, there's been lots of conversation surrounding that. And so that is the reference that the Attorney General makes to it. Aside from that, too, those affidavits have attachments that includes correspondence regards the former president. And so they make reference that late last year, you recall when a petition was sent to President Akufo-Addo seeking the removal of the Chief Justice as well, they say that their record shows that he actually wrote and forwarded it to the Council of State 2 days later before he now afforded an opportunity to the Chief Justice to respond to it by way of initial comment. And so they make the point that what President Mahama has simply done is consistent with the practice, but they emphasize that there's no law that requires that such a fair hearing should be extended to the Chief Justice in a determination of whether a prima facie case has been made out.
And finally, what are we expecting happens next, now that this case has been adjourned?
As of now, there is no next date, and so what it means is that the court would have to decide, or a hearing notice would have to be issued by the lawyers in the case for a new date to be fixed. The former Attorney General who represents the Otafo MP had wanted the matter to be dealt with on Monday, but the court said that because the request had been granted by the Chief Justice, it did not want to fix a date, not knowing what may happen subsequently, and so they want to leave it open for now. An interesting point worth indicating is that the Office of the Attorney General, in terms of the state attorney that showed up in court, is actually an individual who served as the personal assistant of Godfrey Dagbon while he was in office as the Attorney General. In fact, he made reference to it in court and said that it was one of the reasons he didn't want to raise issues with the presence of the state attorneys there, even though the court had been informed that they were supposed to attend the symposium. But nonetheless, he was proceeding to raise it, even though it was his former personal assistant who was represented at the Office of the Attorney General in court. It's that same individual who also swore the affidavit in opposition that has been filed on behalf of the Attorney General. And that is Reginald Odoi, a state attorney.
Interesting development there. Joseph, thank you very much for those details. That's my colleague Joseph Akable, and he sought to touch base with the affidavit with respect to that which has been submitted by the Office of the Attorney General. We're just going to try and run you through those details with respect to that affidavit as submitted by the Office of the Attorney General. But starting off first with the basis for that injunction application by Eko Vincent Asifo, who's the old Tafu Member of Parliament, whose lawyer is the former Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah-Damian. Quickly, starting off with the basis for that injunction application, and the argument Mr. Asifo makes is that he is advised by his counsel and verily believes same to be true, that should the impugned processes under Article 146 proceed, which is the ongoing process for the removal of the Chief Justice, should it proceed, then they can make a conclusion that instant action is heard. Same will undermine the current or the rule of law and the Constitution, which is the 1992 Constitution, and then the power of the judiciary in discharging its constitutional duty of determining disputes between all persons in Ghana once its jurisdiction is properly invoked. Then he makes a final point with respect to why he's praying the court for that injunction, that irreparable damage and grave injury would be caused to the people of Ghana if the President and the Council of State proceed upon a pursuit of the tainted process, and same is subsequently declared unconstitutional by the Honorable Court. But here's the argument as being made by the Attorney General, some of which my colleague Joseph Akable has been touching on. And the first of which is that he's opposed to the injunction application for starters. Then proceeds to argue with respect to a prima facie case. That's a fiction to dismiss the injunction motion and then proceed to deal with the petition filed by, or petition taken to the President by Professor Kweku Asare during the tenure of former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. These are the timelines they quote with respect to that particular petition. Now, the petition was taken by Professor Kweku Asare on the 18th of December. Now, on that same day, the President transmitted the petition to the Council of State. That's a process which happened in December of last year, December 18th. be specific. Then the AG proceeds to add copious details of the fact that the former president forwarded the said petitions to the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu 2 clear days later. And it is based on that argument that he says that there is no evidence of consistent practice to support the applicant, in this case, Echo Vincent Tasefo and one other individual's claim that the petitions must be transmitted to the Chief Justice for response before same is forwarded to the Council of Citizens. So that's where we are with regards to this case. We can bring you some more details right now.
We'll say in the courts because Member of Parliament for Asin North, James Jachikwesing, has been acquitted and discharged by the High Court after facing decision in 20 elections, a move which the prosecution argued violated the 1992 Constitution. After the ruling today.
It's almost expected because you say when I'm innocent, no matter what you do, they will pronounce at some later date. You know, they were for execution. They were trying to prosecute, but this is a court of law. You know, that's the difference between prosecution and persecution. And I'm very proud that Our Lady Justice Mary. I was going to tell her in the courtroom, but I mean, the rules doesn't allow that. I was going to tell her she's a very decent human being, and more blessings for her. Thanks to God, thanks to all these people behind me, family, friends, my dear sister here, Member of Parliament. I don't know, but my mental state was normal. I'll be honest with you. They will tell you, my sister here will tell you, when you are not wrong, there's nothing you should worry about. No matter where you put the person, they will bounce back. That was my reaction, that I know I'm innocent. I wouldn't do this. I didn't come here to dupe or deceive anybody. I came to help my community here, to help the country, to serve my people and my country. And I made sure I did the right things. But
Lord Edu Asare is our court correspondent, joining us now for a bit more on the story. Lord, good afternoon. Listen, we hear from the Member of Parliament who says that he's always known that he was innocent as far as the charges are concerned. But what was the central argument in the case that led to the discharge and acquittal of him today?
Prosecution held that, two cases actually, they held that in his renewing of the passports, he used false documentation, and then prior to the 2020 parliamentary elections, the prosecution held that he had used dual citizenship, in that he was also a Canadian citizenship. But then, reading out the ruling, or like the judgment, the presiding judge in the matter indicated that there was no evidence of dishonesty on his part because he filed to renounce his Canadian citizenship as far back as December 2019. And so it cannot be the case that as at the time that he was filing the nomination forms in October 2020, he had planned to sort of deceive officials of the Electoral Commission and other officials involved. And so considering all these things, as far as the perjury and then dual citizenship was concerned, they highlighted this in that there are too many inconsistencies regarding what the prosecution submitted as well as what their witnesses were saying. And so they could not call him to answer to these questions, and they indicated that there was no prima facie established against him, and that's why he was acquitted and discharged him.
I see. How did the court address the accusation of dual citizenship?
So I was explaining that earlier. The court indicated that there was evidence that showed that he had applied to renounce his Canadian citizenship in December 2019. But this was the case that the prosecution was making a case that he had the intention to deceive the officials, as far as the electoral officials, as far as the passport officers. But that wasn't the case. And for something like that to happen, it means that the person should have the intention to do so. They also brought about the case of the form that he had filled at the passport office. There were a lot of inconsistencies from what the prosecution had submitted, and then the evidence that the witnesses who were testifying for the prosecution had indicated. So putting all these together, the court held that it cannot be the case that Judge Creighton actually wanted to deceive the public or wanted to be dishonest about the whole thing, and so there was no evidence or prima facie against them to be held accountable or to be held liable for the offenses that he had been charged against. So all the 5 charges which had been proffered against them was discharged, and then it was acquitted.
I see, Lord. Thank you so much for the reporting. Lord Eduasare is our court correspondent. We'll turn attention to the Labour Front now, where the Trades Union Congress has called on the government to immediately suspend the privatization of ECG. Now, Secretary General of TUC, Joshua Ansah, who spoke exclusively with our Labour Affairs correspondent, Daniel Opoku, said it will compromise the social benefits that Ghanaians receive if it is privatized.
We think that you should move away from the current way of determining minimum wage and base pay in this very country. We think that what we need to begin discussing, we need to do, is to think about how do we get to the living wage, which takes care of a family of about 4. As for minimum wage, you know, it's nothing to write home about. But we think that there must be some mechanism in place that begins to talk about minimum wage. How do we get there? The tripartite committee should begin thinking about that. The current form of determining minimum wage doesn't help. I think that must be changed. It must shift from the minimum wage to think about living wage.
But is it not the law that is creating that?
Oh, there's a formula. It's not all that the law, but there's a formula which we use in calculating or determining minimum wage. And we think that that law doesn't fit this time around, because it's about inflation, it's about the economy, it's about replacement. How do you call it? I don't get a word to use to replace the lost value of the minimum wage. We think that all these factors doesn't work for now. I think we would have to begin to change the formula and also think about how do we get to a living wage.
But General, would you say salaries are okay for work?
No, please, it's not. It's not at all. Nobody in this country can say that salaries are okay for workers. But I think that we must do something about it to ensure that workers are paid adequately, so that they can also do their best and produce their best. And when we talk about productivity, we need to satisfy both sides. Workers might be satisfied, employers might be satisfied, government might be satisfied. If all these 3 parties are well catered for, I think that.
Let's move away from labour matters now, where stakeholders in Ghana's transport sector are meeting to deliberate on effective ways to end the alarming rate of road accidents that have claimed numerous lives in recent years. The ongoing discussions come as the country grapples with an unsettling increase in road traffic fatalities, particularly from 2023 up until this year. Now, according to recent statistics, Ghana has witnessed a sharp rise in road accidents, with over 3,500 deaths recorded in 2023 alone, marking a stark increase compared to previous years. The situation, we understand, is worsened in the early months of this year, with road accidents continuing to claim lives at an unprecedented rate, leaving families grieving and communities shaken. George Quinn is my colleague at this particular stakeholder deliberation. Let's go to him and find out what solutions are being proffered, because we know road accidents claim so many lives. George, tell us which agencies and groups are attending this all-important meeting.
Maureen, thanks so much, and thanks for having me. Like you rightly mentioned, these are stakeholders in the transport industry that are meeting to come up with strategic measures to really reduce road crashes, if not to mitigate it entirely. So we have executives from DVLA, executives from GPRT, POTUA, GRTCC. We have also executives from the urban roads, among others. And so this really can tell you that it's an urgent and important meeting, because for the executive director to come out to say that if we do not get lasting solutions, no one is leaving this very premises. And so For him, according to the acting director of the authority, he's had calls from the presidency, he's had calls from the national security, because this issue has not become a national security concern, and so it's very urgent. That's why we are here to come up with these measures to end this fatality. But let me give you a breakdown of the figures for this first quarter. And in this first quarter, total vehicles that were involved in the crashes were 6,143, persons injured 4,287, total accident cases that are reported were 3,674, persons killed were 752, commercial vehicles 2,095, private vehicles 2,473, and the motorcycles 1,575. And let me give you the percentage-wise. So for the male, 77%, and female, 23%. So according to the authority, if we go on this very trajectory, it means that there will be more than 3,000 deaths every year. But in every month, 250 people were reported dead in the month. So it's really a serious question, Mariam.
Gloomy, these statistics you've been giving us. What proposals or solutions have come forth thus far in tackling what is now being described as a national security threat?
So, Marina, with the proposals, we are yet to go there, but some of the concerns that came from the stakeholders here was the fact that we should ensure that we adhere to all these regulations, like wearing of seatbelts and ensuring that some of these road markings are, repainted if they are missing on the roads. But one of the things is the fact that we know the issue of overspeeding is a concern, but also underspeeding also can result in death. So all these things should be put in place. Let's put this perspective together and ensure that all these things that we are championing come out in good effect.
Thank you for those details. That's my colleague George Quinn, and he's at that ongoing, all-important stakeholder engagement, seeking to proffer solutions to road carnages in the country. 350 plus individuals, according to statistics, lose their lives every month. Surely something ought to be done about that.
A member of Parliament's Committee on Health and MP for Garu, Dr. Thomas Anaba, says both the Food and Drugs Authority and the Narcotics Control Commission should be blamed for the prevalence of opioids in the country. Speaking on TV3's news analysis and current affairs show Agenda, Dr. Anaba intimated that there is a system failure in Ghana's quest to ameliorate the opioid menace.
Government wants to block our borders to prevent opioids from illegally entering into the country. It must be able to do it. If opioid is being brought in illegally and is destroying our youth, those who are supposed to take care of this country in future, it is the duty of the country, the government, to push the military, the police, whoever, to block the borders. All the unapproved roads must be identified. The military have the duty to identify all unapproved roads. Immigration has the duty to identify all unapproved roads. In the moment a new one is created, they have to go and block it. That is their work. That is what we pay them for. We can't sit down and just throw our hands and say we are porous borders, so we can't do anything. But whilst our youth are dying.
Now, a psychologist and Vice Dean of Student Affairs at the University of Ghana, Legon, Dr. Charles Prenyawiafe, he's urged stakeholders to intensify awareness creation as a pathway to dissuade the use of opioids in the country.
I assume that people know that what they are doing is wrong, but not always. So I will go back to the usual issue about education, sensitization. And that is where the media comes in. The media have played significant role in the past. For I can recall when President Kufuor knocked out the 4 zeros from the cities. It was something that almost everybody heard. Why? Because on radio, television, different languages at different time. During COVID, there were a lot that we heard. For seminar, kind of trying to keep clean. So we need to educate, sensitize. Then the next step should be the enforcement. We need to up our game. We need to enhance it. I think that is not up to a level that we expect, especially looking at the rate at which it's being, individuals are engaging in it. So the enforcement, then we get from the enforcement, those who are caught, either they are the big guns or the smaller ones that are pushing, they must be prosecuted.
Now, the Auditor General has initiated a nationwide payroll audit targeting ministries, departments and agencies, and all subvented organizations under the government of Ghana's payroll system. The audit will cover the period January 2023 to December 2024. According to the Auditor General, the audit is designed to verify the legitimacy of employees on the government payroll and root out inefficiencies, including ghost names and financial irregularities. Thomas Tanko Musa is General Secretary of NAT, is joining us for a bit more on this. Good afternoon, Thomas. Let's talk about this payroll audit. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Good afternoon to yourself and to all your viewers.
No, I'm asking if you're ready for the audit.
I mean, this is when I heard it, I was really surprised.
Why?
Yes, because 2023, 2024, the fiscal year now we're talking about, I mean, so many things took place around that particular time. If you all recall, that was the time that the OSP said it has carried out some kind of exercise together with the controller and accountant general's department, and ended up in blocking the salaries of some teachers in the northern region and some aspect of the country. And I remember quite clearly, we went there to indicate to them that, look, the people that they are describing them as good, it is as a result of the inactivity or the kind of inactivity of or lack of how do you call it, speedy settlement of the issue of management unit and all those things that has led to that particular issue in question. And because of that, it is not because teachers, some of them are good. And I remember the matter ended up at the Labor Commission,
right?
And we got it done. If you also recall, within that same period, these people, the controller itself told us that their data, they are now working together with the National Identification Authority, so that if you don't have the Ghana card or the ECOWAS card, your salaries will not be paid. That also became an issue. We even indicated to Controller and Accountant General's Department to refer those issues to the various employers under Article 190 of the Constitution for us to get this thing resolved. In any case, the system as it is, unless maybe somebody hacks the system is not hacked. You can individual go and put his or her name.
Right, Thomas, are you saying that this exercise is unnecessary?
Because you see, I have just told you, OSP did it within that same period. Within that same period again, we were told that the National Identification Authority and Controller and Accountant General's Department, they also did it.
Yes, but this is a more extensive exercise. And then mind you, after that directive about the Ghana card, there hasn't been an audit yet. And so this will be a very fine time for government to know exactly, its wage bill. Is that so bad?
My sister, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, we have no problem in anybody carrying out head count. At the end of the day, we must get value for money. We must all protect the consolidated fund. We must ensure that any money that goes out of it is accounted for. So we are for it. But our concern is this: the people sitting by the platforms. How can individual go there if the system is not hacked? Unless maybe somebody wants to tell me that the people who go onto the system, they normally hack it. In fact, within the same period, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission came to tell us that they have also they've also been able to delete 20,000 or 30,000 names. And those who put the names there. Why? How can we live in a country where today OSP will go to the same farm? They'll come and tell us a story. The next day, then the controller will also go to the same farm. Then the next time, NIA will go to the same farm. Then on the fifth day, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission will also go to the same farm. Does it mean that we have money and we are throwing it away? Cannot be.
So you think it's a waste of resources?
Because one particular thing we have been doing it over, and is it that what we are doing, we don't do it well? My sister, look, let us face it here. Let us face it. There should be some kind of cabal that are engaged in this particular thing. Because human beings are not weeds. Human beings are not weeds that they grow. Human beings, it is only a human being that can go and plant a human being on that particular platform.
Right.
The platform does not, on that part, human beings don't grow on that particular platform like weeds.
So Thomas, what would you rather the government does at this time?
What I will recommend is that, thank God the NDC government is talking about research. The people sitting by the platform, anytime a ghost is identified, they should be called to account for. Let me give you an example. Now, before any worker is paid on that particular platform, you will have to be validated at the enterprise level where you are working. And so, whoever will validate you, and it ends up that you are not working, that person, that validator will not go free. Talk about the big fishes who are the top there, who normally to place people on those platforms. What are we doing to them? We think that we don't have what it takes to take, I mean, the people that we have given them, the gatekeepers of the platform, we cannot take them on. Then we should forget it, because this is always going to be an exercise in futility.
I see.
Waste of resources, and tomorrow we'll come back to the same thing. The thing is this: if after this particular exercise, anyone that will be identified to have compromised or caused any financial loss to the organization or planted any human being on that particular platform should be dealt with severely, and that will serve as a deterrent to future leaders or people who will be put there to check the platform. Otherwise, what this one will, next year we'll do it, next 2 years we'll do it, and it will continue. Yes.
Thank you so much for talking to us, Thomas.
Thank you.
Thomas Tanko Musa is General Secretary for NAT. We've been discussing that payroll audits to take place across all ministries, departments, and agencies, and all organizations that benefit from government funding, so to speak. You're live here on News Central. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take you across the regions. Don't go away.
You're welcome back to News Central. Let's bring you a bit more stories, this time from the presidency, because President John Mahama says Ghana is open for new business opportunities with the Czech Republic for growth and development. Speaking at the Czech-Ghana Business Summit as part of the three-day state visit of the Czech President, John Mahama and his Czech counterpart both expressed their desire to create the enabling environment for businesses in the two countries.
Data indicates that Ghana's economy has demonstrated remarkable resilience with a GDP growth rate projected at 4.2% for 2025, a testament to the soundness of the economic policies we are implementing. This positive trajectory, coupled with our strategic position as a gateway to West Africa and our pivotal role as the host of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, positions Ghana as an ideal partner for Czech businesses seeking to access the vast and rapidly growing African market of 1.3 billion consumers. The 24-hour economy policy focuses on strategic sectors that present exceptional opportunities for collaboration between Ghanaian and Czech enterprises. We readily welcome Czech expertise in machinery, automotive components, and advanced agro-processing technologies to help Ghana add substantial value to our abundant agricultural produce and create integrated supply chains that benefit both our economies.
I believe that both President Mahama and myself, we have the goodwill to open the door wide and to create the best possible conditions for you to go forward. In a number of areas that were, many of them mentioned here, from food processing here in Ghana.
Kingdom in that assemblies rather than using their offices for selfish interests. He emphasized that their nomination is a testament to their hard work and to prove such abilities in their new offices. The King also urged the respective assembly members to confirm the nominees to speed up development. I'm now joined by another region correspondent, Christopher Marco. Chris, good afternoon. What more can you tell us about the story?
Yes, so Kamini, it has to do with the fact that these nominees will be confirmed in the coming days. And so they paid a courtesy call on the King of Dagbon, Ndayana Abukari II, to seek his blessing because now the local government ministry, the chieftaincy ministry, have been incorporated into the local government ministry. And so they are supposed to work with traditional authorities as well as religious leaders. And so these MMDCs nominated by the president thought it wise to, first of all, pay courtesy call on the traditional overlord of the Dagbon kingdom to seek his blessing and also to inform him that in the coming days, they'll be going to the assembly members for them to be confirmed. And so the overlord indicated that this position is not a position that one must come and seek himself, that is to say, for his selfish interests. The position is for them to come and serve the people. And so when they get into the office, they should first of all prioritize the development of their respective assemblies, such that the development that the areas have been yearning for over the years will come to fruition. And so they should not, as it were, think first about themselves, but the entire development of their areas. Let's take a listen to what the King has been saying.
Is a happening bella. I'm using sauce whatever. To cup, Tamal Benda Prima, Binyal and Vopia, Kabuta Korondima, Zabanda Prima, Benandima. So come Favenda. So come da Favenda. Quoting in a yenny Bizan Wanyanga Koji Kanya Benintam. Nintam Mami Pelo and Tour Lalana Tirba. Oyam Bola Soshanadin and Chaka Tumakana. Kaso Kamtum. A Legonson Kana, Kobolena, Sulromia Yikan the Kokana. Sudo Yikan the Kokana. Sayan Jihulashima. Dinyago, Yin never mang Mala, the Melassa has Katlayina.
And Christopher, you've pretty much been telling us what he's been saying there in the local dialect. But do we know when the assemblies will be doing the confirmation of these nominees?
Yes, so the regional minister, in consultation with the regional executives, are yet to fix a date for the confirmation of these metropolitan municipal district chief executives for the northern region. What we do know is other places the processes have begun. I'm told that it is supposed to take within 21 days for this to be done. You also know that the various assemblies will also get people as government appointees to add up to the elected assembly members before this process can take place. And so these consultations have begun at the various assemblies, and people who are supposed to come and support in the running of the assembly will be announced in the coming days so that they will form part of the government appointees. One of the nominees for Tamale Metro, Abu Takoro, has also been commenting on his plans for the Tamale Metro Assembly. Let's take a listen to him.
Looking at sanitation, decongestion, and other problems that I don't need to mention now. But until I get to the office, I will avail those problems to the media, and then the way forward as what to do. Especially if you look at the Toyele bus terminal, it has been there for a long. We need to tackle it vigorously. If you look at Katpayele market, it is something that we need to tackle it vigorously so that we will be able to move some of our women in the central business to that place to relocate. You see, it is high time for us as metropolis to look at relocation, rather decongestion. If you are going to decongest somebody, you must have other alternatives to put the person so that it will be peace. Like the overlord said, we don't have to use harsh words on people. We don't have to use pressure on people because we have power. We need to talk, we need to dialogue so that there will be peace at the end of every project that you are going to carry.
Christopher Wudive here. Thank you so much for the report.
Now, a dawn inferno tore through the Inchaban market in the Shama municipality early Wednesday, reducing at least 10 shops to ashes and leaving several traders counting their losses. The fire, which started around 2 a.m., swiftly engulfed parts of the market, damaging goods and property worth millions of cedis. Out of the 230 shops in the market, 7 were completely destroyed. The cause of the fire remains unknown, but firefighters, police, and officials from the Shama District Assembly are on site to find the cause of the fire. Let's go right now to Stephen Kujo, who's joining us with details. Stephen, in what ways are the traders affected by this fire?
The market is one of the busiest markets in the Shama municipality. If you take the Poso market, the next busy market is the Inchaban market. The fire incident, I'm told, started at dawn around 2:30 a.m. And for the timely intervention of firefighters, the situation could have been worse. As the place where the fire started, there are lots of wooden structures. When they got the distress call, 2 fire tenders were immediately sent to the scene to fight the fire. Initially, they had challenges accessing the stores where the fire incident was happening, but they used their water hose to navigate a route to send water to quench the fire. Currently, the fire has been dozed off, but affected traders are feeling from the lost where this incident happened. Stores containing cloth and takeaway parts have been destroyed. officials from the Sama Municipal Assembly have been here. The Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture, Madam Emilia, at whose constituency this incident happened, is also here, and she has been commiserating with affected victims. Aside that, she also intimated that plans are to build a befitting market for these traders. It will soon be activated so that these affected traders will be moved to the new market, because where they are currently, the place is very congested. So building them a befitting market will help solve that. I've been speaking to her, and this is what she has to say.
It's been a collective effort to bring the situation under control. Because of the quick action, the fire was contained very quickly. In all, 10 shops have been burnt down and their contents. 7 totally destroyed. 3, everything in it is burnt, but at least the structures exist. This pushes us to take prompt action. We've always talked about building a new market for Inchaban and moving them there, because even the junction gets congested and all of those things. So we are going to try as much as possible. I'm going to talk to my bosses for us to intervene as early as possible and possibly salvage such situations in the future.
Emilia Arthur, she's Fisheries Minister. Stephen, thank you very much for all those details. Stephen Kujo is my colleague in the Western region.
The Spanish ambassador to Ghana, Hel Losada, has stated that the world today is not one of isolated states, but a globalized one, while emphasizing the importance of global cooperation to ensure maritime security and address climate change. He made these remarks while speaking at the Western Regional Coordinating Council during a stopover of a Spanish warship as Second. Meanwhile, the Western Regional Minister Joseph Nelson has lauded the role Spain continues to play, especially in maritime security. Irama Smith reports.
On the Red Lamparo, this is the Spanish warship that is currently patrolling the Gulf of Guinea along the West African coast. We understand that they are helping with the provision of security, especially now that we are hearing of suspected piracy activities over here. They tell us that in Ghana, would be taking a look at the petroleum hub, the security situation there. So basically, along the coastal area, how Ghana can protect itself. Already we've been to the Western Regional Coordinating Council led by the Spanish ambassador. They met with the regional minister. The Spanish ambassador had this to say when questioned about the interest of the Spanish government in Ghana, especially when they talk of partnerships where it looks like Ghana tends to gain more than the Spanish government. This is what the Spanish ambassador to Ghana, Angel Losado, had to say.
There is no cooperation without common interest. If there are not two interests that are put together, then there is no cooperation. So, of course, for Spain, there is an interest. As for Ghana, there is an interest of this cooperation. That's why we are together here. In Spain, what's our interest? Is to be, we are neighbors. We are having the same borders, the same problems. The world today is not a world of isolated states. The world today is a globalized world. And either the countries work together in addressing the big issues, big global issues, from security and safety to climate change. So we have to work together to have a world that is manageable, where people can live, where we can live in peace. And that's our common interest.
Meanwhile, the Western Regional Minister, Joe Nelson, has lauded the Spanish government in terms of its support to the Western region, in terms of the provision of scholarships, among others, and called for continuous cooperation for marine security and also climate change.
Western region is also appreciative of the benefit that it has derived from such cooperation that we've had over many years. To be specific, let me mention the scholarship that your country, has offered and continues to do for our students at Takoradi Technical University, and then the training that you are seeking to provide for the Petroleum Hub, which is a very important facility in this region.
The team also paid a courtesy call on the Omahini of the Sikatu traditional area, Nana Kobnan Ketia the 5th. And this is a control center of the warship. It is the hope of residents and indeed those along the coastal communities and the fishing community that they will impact meaningfully on our security agencies, especially the Navy, so that the sea will be safe for us. Irama Smith, TV3 News, Secondary Naval Base.
Irama enjoying exclusivity in the warship, quite interesting. Now, residents of Sampa to Jinejine in the Bunu region can finally heave a sigh of relief as construction work on the long-neglected Sampa-Jinejine road is set to begin by June this year. The assurance comes from the Regional Minister Joseph Adai Akwabwa following persistent appeals from locals about the poor state of the road. Here's a report by my colleague Claude Kumiebisa.
The Bono Regional Minister, Joseph Adai Akwabwa, has announced that construction work on the deplorable Sampa-Jinejine Road will commence latest by June this year. He made this known during the confirmation ceremonies of municipal and district chief executives for German North and South. The minister's announcement comes as a direct response to the growing concerns of the residents and business owners who have lamented the terrible state of the road, which has severely hampered economic activities and transport in the area. One promise from our father, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to you is that by June, construction work on your road from Sampa to Jinejine will commence. This road is under a program we've named because the people of Sampa, Suma, Drobo, and Jinim are so important to us, so we will fix the road for you. Meanwhile, the district chief executive for German North, George Adani, has appealed for the road to be asphalted, stressing that the current condition is negatively affecting the movement of goods and people to major cities. He emphasized that the upgraded road network is crucial for boosting trade and improving livelihoods in the region.
One of our major problems everybody is crying for is to construct our road for us. If we look at how the road is, we don't need this bitumen again, but we need concrete asphalt. But if we look at the number of cars and cargo cars that passes through this road, if we use the bitumen aspect of it, it won't last long. So we are appealing to the government. Last week, the road minister came and inspected the road, and he has given us his assurance that whatever it will take for him to construct the road, he will do it. So we are appealing to the government and the road minister and whoever is concerned to help us to construct the road. From Sampa to here is just about 40 kilometers, but you spend more than 2 hours to get into Drobo, which is hindering the economic movement of the traders to the big cities.
For now, all eyes are on the government to ensure work begins as scheduled. Claude Kome Abisa, TV3 News, Drobo, German South.
And that's it for Regional Hub. And that will be all from us here on midweek action of News Central. I am Mawina Egbeta.
And I am Kemeni Amano. Thank you so much for your company. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.